Okay, and I don't know if anybody's here, but we are now live. I think this is working. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, you can go ahead and type those in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them. So welcome everybody for tuning in. I guess I'll just hang out until I see some questions in the chat. One thing that I will update people on, kind of let you know, is that the Travis Scott interview with Charlemagne the God, which was posted earlier this week, I have recorded a reaction video, and we're in the process of editing that because it's almost an hour long. So I certainly don't mind sharing a few thoughts on that today. If anybody has questions about it, but we'll have a much more long form reaction video to that coming up. So anyway, if you have any questions, drop them in chat. Y'all can just look at my pretty face for a little while if you want. That's cool too. Any questions? Somebody's got to have a question. Come on. What do I hate the most about being a lawyer? Good question. Say a couple things. Number one, the majority of billing as a lawyer is done by keeping track of time and then sending it to people. And some practice areas, and I will bill a few things on flat fee basis, but for the most part, you keep track of your time and then send a client the bill, and that's how you get paid, and that's how you get food on the table. No, you didn't miss the lawyer joke. I'll tell one in a second. Say once we get to, we'll call it 10 people on the stream, I'll tell a lawyer joke. Once you bill all your time and send it to somebody, anyway, that necessitates keeping a reasonably accurate record of what you're doing throughout the day. So it's just sort of like constant multitasking, because you constantly have to be thinking, okay, when I switch from one task to the next task, okay, let me switch over the clock, or let me write down on a Post-it what I when I started, when I stopped, that kind of thing. It's just like a constant annoyance. If you don't do it, you don't get paid, right? Now, what I would like the most, I would say it's always varied, right? It's you never have the same day-to-day questions. You might have an issue one day that is relatively straightforward, and something the next day you've never seen before. It's just totally out of left field. So your brain is constantly working. It's something that you get to, at least in my practice area, you get to learn a lot about a whole lot of different types of people and a whole lot of different businesses. So not only do I have like a very kind of depth of experience in my particular area of law, business law, estate planning, that kind of thing, but you also get kind of a breadth of a little bit of knowledge. And I could tell you a little bit about like outdoor advertising. I could tell you a little bit about doctors. I could tell you a little bit about vet clinics. I could tell you a little bit about garbage businesses. I could tell you a little bit about all kinds of different lines of work and what people have done. And you meet some interesting people, and you learn a whole lot of stuff. And for someone like me who has a very curious mind, that is enjoyable. Okay. What if your lawyer wants you to settle your injury lawsuit, and are you not willing? Well, the basic answer is that as the client, you have the choice to settle or not settle. Your lawyer can advise you, and I will tell you that the analogy that I use when I advise my clients of something is I'll say, hey, my advice to you is do the thing or don't do the thing. And if you go and do the thing, and I told you not to, and something bad happens, then I'm going to say, well, hey, look, I told you not to smack your hand with that hammer, and you went ahead and did it. So what did you think was going to happen? For the most part, and personal injury is a little bit different because, and there's a lot of ethics ink that has been spilled over this, where in a contingency fee situation, the interests of the lawyer can diverge a little bit from the interests of the client. I don't do personal injury, but it can, and there are some attorneys out there who are known for being kind of quantity mills of just get a case, settle it, get a case, settle it, get a case, settle it. And they never go to trial. They're just trying to get the minimum insurance settlement and just like high volume practice. I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to speak ill of anyone in particular. But if you're in the bar, you know who some of these people are. I would consider some of them to be unethical. But again, I'm not going to name any names. But the answer to your question is that it's your choice. At the end of the day, it's your choice whether to settle or not. The attorney could, under some circumstances, withdraw from the representation, right? So if you continue to not listen to your attorney's advice and he tells you don't do the thing, you do the thing. He tells you don't do the thing, you do the thing, and you do it over and over and over, the attorney can say, look, I can't represent you anymore. This is causing some sort of problem, whether it be putting my license at risk, you're doing illegal conduct, you're not listening, you're not paying your bill, it's not working out, blah, blah. You can withdraw from representation under certain circumstances. And I would expect if the conflict were particularly significant over whether to settle or not, you might see a withdrawal. Okay, we're at 12. So here's your lawyer joke. What do you call 100 lawyers at the bottom of a swimming pool? Progress, or alternatively, good start. All right. What do you do as a lawyer when you come across a grossly unethical judge? There's not a lot of certainly you hear some of them. Problem solved. That's another good answer. You hear of some jurisdictions where judges get caught for bribery and that kind of thing. And if you are familiar with your geographic area, you probably know of the places, if any, that are near to you where corruption is sort of endemic. There's an area of the far southern part of Texas, right along the border with Mexico. Not judges including judges, but public officials generally, solid tradition of bribery. So like they just, just conveyor belt. They just get pop, 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 pop. It could be school districts, could be mayors, could be all kinds of public officials. Bribery just happens regularly. So you kind of know that, okay, if I'm, and I have never had to appear in court down there, thank God. And I have had people ask me to take cases in some of those areas, and I tell them, no, I'm not doing that. So you kind of know of like, hey, this area is one where they don't take kindly to outsiders, and the home team is going to win pretty much regardless. So if you get dragged into a lawsuit in one of these counties, it's not going to go well for you, even if you're objectively right. Now, not to speak ill of any particular judge. Again, I'm not going to name names. I don't know. I don't have particular information on like who may be the corrupt person or not corrupt person or whatever at this point in time. But I'll tell you, historically, there's a significant record of corruption down there. So I won't take cases down there. And a lot of attorneys won't take cases down there. However, on the other side, if you're a PI attorney, for example, and you have a client down, you love that case. That's a great place to go, because if your client is the plaintiff, right, you got to slam it. He's going to, he or she is going to win, even if there's massive comparative negligence on both sides. So what do you do if you come across an unethical judge? There's not much. Appeal, sound the alarm, but you have to be careful, right? Because if you don't really have solid proof of it, you could be the one that ends up kind of holding the tar baby. So not something that happens a whole lot. In general, what is the relationship between homicide detectives and lawyers? Is it adversarial? It depends on the type of lawyer, right? don't necessarily have a wonderful relationship with defense attorneys because they're sort of on opposite sides of the ball, so to speak. On the other hand, you could have some kind of mutual respect. And I know quite a few defense attorneys, and I know a couple prosecutors. I know more defense attorneys than prosecutors, because prosecutors are always they're in-house, they're inside the government, whereas defense attorneys are kind of circulating the community a little bit more. So I know a lot, and there's a lot of variation. And what they would tell you is something to the effect of everybody knows who the good cops are and the not so good cops, and kind of depending on your community, that makeup of the pie can change. I'd say there's some tension, but also a lot of respect. And if you're a homicide detective, I mean, you get it that everybody deserves a fair trial, and you get it that due process is a thing, and you get it that if the cops or the arresting officer or the whatever does something wrong, the guy's going to get off, and that's the way the system is designed, based on the exclusionary rule. That's the point, to make the cops play by the rules. Okay. What I think of Travis Scott's statement. I mentioned this at the beginning. I have a reaction video that I'm gonna. I'm sorry I keep bending down to read these. My mic kind of blocks half of it. I can put it in the middle and block your view if you want. But my general view of Travis Scott's statement. It was a cream puff interview. There were maybe 3 or 4 questions, like real questions, asked in the whole thing. There was a whole lot of, hey, you didn't know about this and you didn't cause it, right? The answer is yes, right? Like very easy, just absolute softball questions, that you'd have to be some kind of stupid to get the wrong answer to. I thought definitely not an objective interview. I thought Charlemagne was very clear, whether intentionally by his personal viewpoint, or because Travis Scott's PR team beat him over the head, by one way or the other. I thought he was very clearly he was team Travis Scott, and let me help you get your story out here so that you can point the finger at all these other people. There were a couple of salient things that to me stood out. And again, like I said, I have a reaction video that I reacted to it, and we're editing. It's like an hour long, so it's enormous pain in the ass to edit the whole thing. But one interesting thing to me was his response to, how did you know about what was going on in the crowd, and how did you regulate that, and how did you communicate that, was not, oh, well, I have a team and they're in my ear, and the thing, which seemed to be based on a lot of the comments that I was getting in the previous videos, the consensus among industry experts and that kind of thing. His answer to how did you keep tabs on the crowd, and how did you know whether something was going wrong or not going wrong, was call and response, which Grant, I'm not a recording artist, I'm not a concert professional, but to me it's stupid. There's no other word. It's stupid. That's the wrong answer. That's probably negligent. To say, well, how did you determine whether someone was injured in the crowd? Oh, well, call and response. I shouted at them and they shouted back, and everything was okay. No, I don't think that. And again, so the standard for negligence is reasonable person, right? Like, was this the duty of care? Was this the standard of care that a reasonable person would take in those circumstances? I think that a reasonable person would rely on something other than call and response to determine whether there are injured people in the crowd. If I were on that jury, I would say call and response is inadequate. I mean, I guess we'll see, but did you see Travis Scott deny responsibility in a new interview? Yeah, I did. But of course, he has been counseled by his attorneys. Another salient thing from that interview is he never says sorry through the whole thing, which I know a lot of y'all will probably be pissed at. And if I were one of the families of the victims, I would be pissed at. However, I don't really read a lot into that, because 100% guaranteed his attorneys hit him over the head 1,000 times before that interview and said, do not let the word sorry come out of your mouth, because that's something that can generate liability in the civil case. So he doesn't do any kind of apology. The places where he sort of comes close to an apology, I'll be really interested to see some of these body language guys analyze that, because to me it sort of seems like BS. But I'm that's not my field of expertise. Just my uneducated sort of lay opinion. It seems like BS. The best lawyer channel here on YouTube. I don't know about that. There's some pretty good lawyer channels on YouTube, but thank you. Charlemagne is trying to protect hip hop artists and music. Yeah, I could see that. I don't know about being canceled. See, like, and I know we put the kind of clickbait title on the last one of like, is Travis Scott canceled? I mean, what I think of as cancel culture is you said a thing that is inappropriate. You said a thing that you're not allowed to say, and the subject matter content of your opinion is impermissible. Therefore, you're never allowed to have a job other than flipping burgers again. And we as a society hate you. He's not being persecuted right now, and he's not being dragged, and he's not being condemned for the content of his opinions. He's being condemned for actual behavior. So we could have a whole conversation about cancel culture and freedom of speech and all of that. We could have about 1,000 different opinions on it, approach it from a whole lot of different angles. But when I think of cancel culture, and who's to say whether my opinion's correct, but when I think of cancel culture, I think you said a thing, or you thought a thing, or you believed a thing, blah, blah, blah. We don't like that. Therefore, you're canceled. This is different. This is behavior. This is negligence. This is causing people to actually die and be injured. So I mean, I know we said cancel culture. That was just to get y'all, thank you for clicking it. That's to get y'all to click it. I don't think this is really cancel culture, personally. When looking for a family lawyer for a child custody issue, what 3 things should you look for? I'd say the most important thing to look for in choosing an attorney, not just for child custody, but for anything, is someone who you think you can trust, and someone who kind of gives off that vibe of being trustworthy. Because one of the most infuriating things as an attorney that clients do sometimes is they don't tell you everything, right? They'll leave out some relevant fact that, like, dude, that would have changed my entire response. That would have changed how I would have advised you. And you didn't tell me because, it was something icky. It was something that you didn't really want to, but attorney-client confidentiality, right? Attorney-client privilege. I can't, like, if you tell me something ugly other than, hey, I'm going to go kill somebody, that I have to report. But if you tell me something like, hey, I did it, I'm totally guilty, I can't disclose that as attorney-client privilege. And candor between client and attorney is so important. I need to know all the facts to be able to give you good advice. I have to know all the facts. You have to be totally honest with me, even about things that kind of suck. So I would say number one, the most important thing is somebody that you feel like you can have that trusting, confidential, you can share your secrets with them. And if you wouldn't be comfortable telling them all of those secrets, well, maybe then find somebody else. Another important one is what are other prior results that they've had, right? This is why referrals are, at least for me, referrals are always the best clients. And I'm sure most clients would say that lawyers that they're referred to are always the best lawyers, right? Because if they did good work for someone else, well, they'll probably do good work for you too, right? Certainly there's no guarantees in this business. There's no guarantees in life, but I would say by and large, look at those two things. I'm thinking about $1 billion settlement for all involved. If they have $1 billion, maybe. I saw there was another lawsuit filed for $3 billion or something. I mean, these numbers are just getting insane. Is it nuts? I don't know if they have billions of dollars to settle with. And certainly the fact that insurance policy is only 26 million, that's going to be an issue, right? Because that insurance policy, that's gone, right? That's getting exhausted very, very quickly. And whatever liability is left over. One crazy scenario that I thought of, and I don't know whether this could actually happen. I need to think through it and really game plan it out. But it occurred to me that based on premises liability, it is possible that the victims collectively could end up owning that venue, right? They could force the venue to go bankrupt and then step in as the new equity in a bankruptcy as, judgment creditors. And the victims could be the new owners of NRG Park, or sort of depending on how the real estate is set up. Hell, maybe they'll own that NFL stadium. Wouldn't that be crazy? I don't know. Don't take that to the bank. It's just a crazy theory. I know. I take some time to look into this. Let's see. What can clients do to make themselves liked by their lawyer? I mean, be honest with me, pay your bill, and don't bug me every 5 minutes about something trivial. If there's something super important, definitely call me immediately. But I'm pretty busy on a daily basis. Don't call me 3 times a day about something irrelevant, or I'm going to start billing you for every single time you call me. I think he answered a question with, yeah, nah. Oh, and 100 knows. We're going to have a counter on that video. There's a lot of knows. There's a lot of knows. And there's one, again, if you're okay, you got 37 people on the live stream. I'll give you a sneak preview. There's one question that Charlemagne asks him. And I just about lost my shit watching this. He goes, yeah, nah, some people be like, and he literally says nothing for like 20 seconds. It's great. I rewatching my commentary. There were a few points where I was laughing. I think it's going to be a good video. I hope y'all like it. What's the difference in your opinion between the tragedy, the Pearl Jam tragedy, and Roskilde, Denmark? From what I've seen, the band Pearl Jam reached out to the families. Yeah, that's certainly one difference. I don't know enough about the concert precautions that were or were not taken in the Roskilde show to tell you anything about that. However, I'm fairly confident saying that Pearl Jam did not do things like middle finger to security, encourage people to rush the stage, tell people to sneak in without a ticket, et cetera, et cetera. That's one of the other interesting things. This is just going to be like a half-hour sneak preview of the video reaction. Travis Scott's apparently now a concert safety evangelist and talking about how we can use like technological wristbands to ensure that only authorized people are allowed to access. But remember that tweet where he says, we're going to sneak the wild ones in, and then people crash the gate and nobody did anything. Anyway. So I could see as a person who built a career in hip hop, he used it as an argument. He doesn't want censorship or hip hop artists to get too much hate. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I don't think this is or should be a reason to cancel hip hop culture. I don't think this is or should be a reason to cancel hip hop artists more generally. I think this is a reason that Travis Scott should probably not have any more live shows ever. And that very well may come to pass. I will not be at all surprised if he's uninsurable from here on out. That's to me, that's a coin flip or better chance. That's more than likely. And again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'd say over 50% chance that he's a studio artist. If I'm an insurance company, if I'm an insurance company, I'm not writing that policy. If I'm an insurance company and you come to me and say, hey, we've got a Travis Scott show, will you write the insurance policy? Okay, add 3 zeros to the premium. Otherwise, I'm not writing it. I'm not an actuary, but for me, you look at that history and you look at whatever settlements end up getting paid out in this lawsuit, which I'm sure will be substantial. I'm not writing that insurance policy. It's like writing an insurance policy for somebody who has like 5 DUIs. Like, it's a virtually, maybe not guaranteed risk, but it's extremely high, unacceptably high risk. People do the same thing when going to the doctor. They do not want it to be known and possibly insurance company finding out. Yeah, I mean, insurance regulation is a whole other thing. We're not gonna dip into that. I'm gonna move these over so I can actually read them. Live Nation will be broke nation. Yeah, possibly. Possibly. The problem that I think you'll run into there is there's not really a whole lot of competition in the space, right? Live Nation is pretty much the only game in town when it comes to concerts. Now, perhaps that will change in the future. But yeah, Live Nation's a deep pocket. And again, it's on the list to do. I just also have a full-time law practice, so I can't go do YouTube research 24 hours a day. There are allegations made against Apple. Now, if Live Nation is a deep pocket, Apple is a really deep pocket. So if it comes to pass that Apple Music or Apple had some sort of say in setting up the cameras in a way that blocked exits or made the crowd less safe, or et cetera, yeah, that could be a big deal. And that could be where you get your $1 billion deal. That could be where you get your $1 billion lawsuit from, because Apple does have that kind of money. Hi, I almost missed this again. Well, I'm glad you're here. Hi, I'm a medical student, though my topic is not law, but still love to see your videos. Thank you. I'm glad. My goal with each one of these videos is to kind of maybe not give you a comprehensive explanation of the whole topic, but at least break off a corner or two that I can, have something legally relevant to say. And then he says, are you saying I say, Yeah, I mean, I say that too. I don't say it as much as Travis Scott. Travis won't be playing Coachella. I'd be shocked if I just don't see it happening. Travis Scott is not a good person. Once he showed middle finger to my cousin when he was shouting to get his autograph. He should respect fans. He could have ignored her, but he decided to abuse her. Yeah, I mean, so this is the other, and maybe this could just be my own lack of understanding of that particular element of hip hop culture. But so going back to the video, one of his reasons, one of his explanations of how he was able to check on the crowd and see if everything was okay was a call and response. Okay, so he says something about, hey, everyone by the ambulance, middle finger to the sky. And I guess the argument is that middle finger to the sky is not a disrespectful gesture, that it's kind of like waving. I don't really understand that. Maybe that's just because I'm an old white lawyer, but I'm not even that old. I'm a 36-year-old white lawyer, but I don't really understand why middle finger to the sky is yeah, I'm good. I don't get it. But maybe giving somebody a middle finger is giving them a fist bump or something. I don't get it. Are you up to date with the Scott Peterson case? Not enough to give you an opinion here. I've been getting up to speed on another case that I plan to hopefully do a video about if I can find something meaty enough to chew on, which is the Duggar case. That dude's a real shitbag. Impractical Medicine, that's terrible. He keeps losing the endorsements. The zombie interview was bad. I thought it was pretty bad. Very low energy, but people in comment. Okay, so this is another thing that I noted. This is another thing that I noted. In the interview, he's very he's like this and very just kind of in this box through the whole thing, except for the one part where he talks about the concert engaging with the community and the concert being something that he did for the city of Houston. And that he's animated, he's out here, he's gesturing, he's excited. Again, I very much look forward to some of these body language guys analyzing that interview, because I think there's a couple of really striking moments through that interview. But it seems to me that for 80% of that interview, he's uncomfortable, he's cold, he's been coached, he's clearly been coached extensively by lawyers. There's no doubt about that. The fact that unless he's an actual sociopath, the fact that the words sorry never come out of his mouth, number one, And number two, the fact that he doesn't open the interview with, hey, I know you just asked me a question, but look, I want to say families of people who died, I'm with you. I sympathize with you. I want to help you in any way I can. There's a lot of things you could say that are not the word sorry. There's a lot of things that you could there's a lot of ways that you could reach out to those families and show some kind of like, hey guys, I'm going to do what I can here. Even though, in fairness, the first question that Charlemagne asked him was, how are you? If it were me and I had just been responsible for something that horrible, I would have said, look, I know you asked me a question about that, but I want to speak to the families and say, look, guys, my heart breaks for you, that kind of thing, like something. But we don't get that. It's me. If you're okay, put your middle finger up. It should have been, if you're not okay, put your middle finger. Yeah. Again, I feel like call and response is an entirely inadequate means of keeping a tab on the impulses and the health of the crowd, right? Like call and imagine if you go work for Astroworld and you open up your employee handbook and you have your sections, substance policy, social media policy, dress code, blah, blah. And then you get to the section that's like, okay, when the concert's actually happening, how are we going to check on whether anyone's injured in the crowd? Like, what are we going to do? And it says, hey, we're just going to use call and response. Like, that's completely inadequate. Completely inadequate. That cannot be the answer. And it's probably the only answer he has, but that can't, like, that's not if that's your answer, that's negligence. I didn't accept Travis Scott apology, but I definitely accepted the memes made on it. Yeah, he was, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but it seems to me like he was on something. Duggar the Hugger, not many people can stay cool with that guy. Yeah. Okay. So I think, and this is the direction that I'm going to try to take the video that I'm chewing on and thinking about doing. What we know about that kind of abuse is that is not something that just like happens, right? Like that runs in families. And if you look at the way that his parents, particularly his father, Jim Bob is probably, the apple probably doesn't fall far from the tree, right? Number one, he knew about the abuse before the reality show filmed season 1. He knew. And there's various contradictory, well, we knew, we didn't know. We sent him to a camp where he dug holes and had his head shaved, and we put him in the care of a police officer who is now in jail for felony abuse. There's a lot of meat there. I just got to come up with an interesting something to say. And I think I have it, but we'll figure it out. There are apps which show the word help on the phone, and the screen keeps flashing different colors. Technique is already there for people to signal. It's up to Live Nation organizers to. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, keeping tabs on, when that many people are injured in a crowd, security is pulling bodies out. I don't know whether the people are unconscious or, in some sort of cardiac arrest or dead or whatever. I mean, security is pulling like multiple non-responsive humans out of the crowd. They knew. And actually, another thing to go listen, another thing that I might review and react to is the audio recordings that were leaked of, I believe it's the Houston Fire Department or the Houston Police Department. And they were like not even halfway through the show, they were talking about like, somebody that might be dead or somebody that was trampled. And like, for that to not get to whoever was backstage and whoever could pull the plug and that kind of thing. I mean, there were multiple failures, and that probably starts at the top, right? That probably starts at, here's the best analogy that I can think of for this. If you're the overbearing, jerk CEO, and you hire yes men and you surround yourself with yes men who will never tell you that anything's wrong. And that's how we get so many of these scandals in corporate America, because people who blow the whistle end up fired. I sort of envision, based on what I've seen about like hiring of security and the people they hired for, like there was no training provided. They just hired random people who, they put their name in effectively. Here, you're going to be paid $14 an hour to go listen to a concert. They hired inadequate numbers of security. They hired inadequate numbers of medical, all this. Seems to me like they sort of cut the phone line on purpose because they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear people telling them to stop. Seems to me. Traversing high, in my opinion, being under the influence of drug. Well, it's a good question. Taking the drugs could be the act of recklessness, right? So if you think about like the analogy that I would use for this is like driving under the influence, right? So while you may not have responsibility for the act of, swerving the car or whatever because you couldn't control it, you do have responsibility for the act of pounding 10 beers and then getting behind the wheel. You do have control over that. So the culpable act might be over here rather than over here, but yeah, I don't think that gets you out of responsibility. LH, did he end up saying sorry? Not that I saw. I was listening for that word and I didn't ever hear it. And if I were his attorney, I would have told him, don't you dare say sorry. So as I said earlier in the stream, I don't really fault him. I could fault him for plenty. I don't really fault him for not saying sorry in that interview, because saying sorry in that interview, which will be recorded and could be court admissible, that's the kiss of death in that civil lawsuit. You don't want to say something like sorry, even if you are sorry. So which maybe that means don't even do the interview. If you can't say the thing that you need to say in order to bring the victims a little bit of peace, then just shut up. I don't know. Maybe that's the answer. Do I think he even cares about the fact that so many lives are now gone? I don't know. There's one moment for about 10 seconds in that interview where he, to me, shows some genuine sorrow and some genuine contrition over it. What's your opinion on Daca? We're going far afield here. I don't think that's an appropriate use of executive power. Whether it's a good idea or a bad idea substantively, I think we could have that debate as a society. But I think whether it comes out as yes or no, I think that ought to be a law passed by Congress. And the fact that Congress is perpetually gridlocked, is a whole other conversation. But I would say that's the president legislating, which is not really what we're supposed to do. I wonder if they continued in fear of riots. That claim seems a little bit crazy to me, right? That, stopping the concert would have been more dangerous than continuing the concert. That's a real stretch. I think he was abusing fentanyl. He was high and sleepy both during his apology. I haven't seen a talk screen. I wouldn't be surprised. The whole music and the culture about getting high and getting fucked up and, taking whatever. So would not be surprised. I don't know. I couldn't, from watching a few seconds or a few minutes or, even close to an hour of an interview, I couldn't differentiate, for example, among the different classes of maybe whoever are, in practical medicine, if you are qualified enough to do that diagnosis, maybe you're right. I can see that. I'm certainly not. I will opine on law. I will not opine on. It seems to me he was on something. That's as far as I'll go. I've been thinking there may be a money laundry business behind this kind of shows. I don't know. Suppose there could be. I don't know what we would base that on. It's not your typical symptoms of a money laundering thing are, heavily cash business that's tough to track, right? The tickets wouldn't have been heavily cash. The tickets would have all been bought by credit card or what have you beforehand. So that would not have been money laundering. I I recall seeing something about it was $7 for a water, depending on how much water was sold and depending on how much other merchandise was sold. That could be, but I have not seen any other indications of that. It was a sacrifice ritual. Wake up, people. I don't know. I'm not a religious scholar. I'm not going to express an opinion on that. That's not, go to another stream. That's, you may be right. You may be wrong. I don't know. I'm not it's not my expertise. Shouldn't have avoided the interview altogether. Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's getting dragged in the press. So, I mean, maybe the interview helps. You got a pretty good interviewer, right? You got a pretty solid, pretty sympathetic interviewer who's got a lot of ears. He didn't have any responses to the golf picture. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm look miserable. Rambling reminded me of Alec Baldwin. Yeah, I agree with that. I haven't done an Alec Baldwin video. Maybe I will. I personally don't agree with the people saying that Travis was awake the whole night before his apology video popped. I don't know about that. That's the other thing here is if you watch that, I need to go back and pull the actual details, but if you watch the interview, there appear to be some cracks in the timeline. There appear to be some, maybe not outright inconsistencies, but threads that if you pulled them might be inconsistencies in the timeline and what was posted. Michael Corey, what's up, bro? This is we've got a famous YouTuber in the comments here. Do you have an opinion on the Fundraiser concert by Drake and Kanye? It seems to me that Drake's trying to run away from this. He's trying to get his name out of this whole debacle. By making up with Kanye, he has successfully, kind of converted the story in the press to being about that rather than being about how he was involved. He didn't really have any control over the thing to begin with, from what I see. I mean, maybe he could have stopped the show. I don't know that he even had that power as a guest singer. What was his level of involvement with it? I don't know. The reports the feds are shocked. They even try to set that man free. Will Anna Duggar be investigated by CPS for seeing him turn a blind eye? Possibly. I think there's multiple people that ought to be investigated by CPS in that whole thing. Not least of which is the parents, because they 100% knew. They 100% knew and did nothing. It's kind of sad Drake never really addressed Astroworld. Actually, I thought that the strip club thing was kind of shameful. But I thought that Drake's post on Instagram was relatively well written. It was a lot better. It was a hell of a lot better than Travis Scott's video apology thing. The written apology posted by Drake, and I don't know whether he even really wrote it. Maybe his lawyer wrote it. I don't know. But the apology that he posted was much better written. As I said in the Drake video, I don't know how much involvement I haven't seen anything that would indicate that he could be held liable in a big way here. Maybe some PR fallout, maybe some, maybe lose some fans, that kind of thing. But he was a guest on stage for a handful of songs, wasn't involved in organizing the festival, wasn't involved in, hiring the security, wasn't a co-founder, wasn't a co-organizer, any of these things. I just don't see, if one of you wants to lay out the case for negligence for me, but I haven't seen it. Josh Duggar crime is similar to what an Austrian father did to his daughter and the mom turned a blind eye. Yeah, and well, I mean, except that you have multiple people turning a blind eye here. I didn't pull the trigger, Baldwin. Yeah. I mean, the obvious parallel here with the Alec Baldwin case is Brandon Lee and The Crow, right? Is He was also killed by a gun that was supposed to have blanks in it, but ended up having a real bullet wedged in it somehow. Don't know what'll happen. For a criminal, as we've discussed, for a criminal charge, you need both actus reus and mens rea, right? So if it can be proved that Alec Baldwin did not know and was not reckless and did not intend for a bullet to come out of his gun, and took all of the due care measures and took all of the, he wasn't reckless and he wasn't this, didn't have the intent, blah, blah, then you're not going to be able to have a criminal charge. If he was reckless, I mean, you could get, manslaughter or something like that. If he intended, say he like slipped the bullet in himself and it wasn't really the armor, just hypothetically, say he slipped the bullet himself and like actually intended to kill that guy because he owed him money or something, that would be murder because you actually do intend to kill that person. But in order for a criminal charge to stick, you have to have not only a guilty act, but a guilty mind. So if he didn't intend, if it was a true accident, maybe you have recklessness, maybe you have negligence, maybe it's some sort of civil thing, but you don't have murder. If you don't intend to kill the person, you don't have murder. What's infuriating is some people talk show hosts on daytime TV actually try to defend him. They're afraid of offending him and his family and then losing Hollywood connections. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein, anybody? Oh, he's also the actor and producer. Same with Travis, who is the actor, artist, and organizer. Yeah, that's a good point. So if Alec hired a bad armorer or hired insufficient numbers of armorers or failed to hire a good company or failed to put proper procedures in place, et cetera, then yes, certainly a case for negligence. Possibly a case for something like reckless homicide, or I think in California that'd be manslaughter. Don't quote me on that. So this is the thing, like the finer gradations of the lines between things like manslaughter and reckless endangerment, blah blah. They all vary by state, but could be, yeah, could be. I mean, that would be something similar to getting behind the wheel of a car after you've pounded 10 beers, right? You didn't intend to kill that person, but you intended to do the thing that created an unreasonably high risk of killing the person. Well, okay, maybe you didn't intend to shoot the guy, but you intended to hire someone who sucked and save a buck, and that resulted in you killing the guy. So you can be liable for that conduct. You can be liable for that kind of recklessness or manslaughter. Baldwin's mouth is maybe. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a civil case for Alec. Yeah, so this is the other thing that we talked about in one of the Travis Scott videos a while ago, right? Is your bar for criminal is way up here, right? Like beyond a reasonable doubt, way, 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 way higher. Your bar for a civil case, 51%. It's more likely than not. It is significantly easier to get civil damages than it is to get criminal. So you might not see the guy go to jail, but is he going to be on the hook civilly? Very likely, particularly given the value at risk, and if you get a couple Baldwin haters on the jury, then you're good. But I wouldn't be surprised. Any other questions? I told you I was going to be half an hour at first, and we're at like 50 minutes. The Crumbly parents case is really interesting. Again, another one that I'm not up on. Maybe we'll get there, but this is the one, Kevin, if I'm recalling correctly, this is the one where the kid went and shot some people and the parents are being charged for it, I think. Interesting. Yes. Do I think they'll be convicted? I don't know enough about it to speak intelligently on that topic. All right. 2 more minutes. Get any questions? Burning questions. Anything? The mom sent a text that said, "Don't do it to her child," instead of calling cops. Yeah, that could get relevant. That could get relevant. Again, it's going to depend on the exact legal mechanism and what the criminal statute says there. Again, another case for more likely to be reckless, some sort of manslaughter. Certainly civil, certainly negligent to, let a kid have access to guns. You dislike the Kardashians so much. I mean, they seem kind of trashy, but like I never really watched any of the shows or anything like that. I don't really have an opinion about most of them. Everybody keeps asking me if Kylie Jenner is going to get, some sort of liability for this. I don't see it. I mean, they all seem like very superficial and just kind of, vapid, but like, I don't know. I don't watch them. I don't follow them enough to dislike them. I've never watched the show. I do not consume that particular brand of media. They make 30 million per episode. I'd be surprised if it's not more. Did I follow the Marilyn Manson case? No, but thank you. I'll take a look at it. Kylie is not his wife. Well, no, they're girlfriend, baby mama, whatever. Maybe common law. I think California is community property. I suppose if you were a clever plaintiff, I suppose you could make a case for a common law marriage, maybe, if they present each other as husband and wife. Probably not. Probably not. Probably she's safe. Yeah, I don't really see a case against her. Okay, guys, we're going to call it with that. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Now we're up to 43 people. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As I said, I have a reaction video to Travis Scott's interview with Charlemagne coming up. A couple pretty funny moments there. So maybe tomorrow, whenever I finish editing that with all of the free time that I don't have. But again, thank you for tuning in. I will do another one of these in the future, maybe next month, maybe month after. If y'all have any other thoughts or questions or things that you'd like me to cover, drop a comment, send me an email, whatever. And thank y'all. Appreciate it.